Hello and welcome. On this week's episode of Tales to Admonish, new information comes out about Matt Reeves' The Batman movie, showing it might be even darker than the darkest Dark Knight. Mark Bernardin's got a new project coming out soon, and we're eagerly awaiting it. Arthur will school me on some video game news, because the last system I bought was a PlayStation 2, as sad as that is. Hollywood loses 2 icons in 1 week. There is further studio consolidation as there are fewer places for artists to sell their wares. John Boyega returns to his roots, and Sharon Stone is pissed off as always. This and more on this week's episode of
Tales to Admonish.
I think that's the first time you've said that without me saying it first, which I like better.
Yeah, it's better. It's cleaner. It's cleaner. It works.
That's right. What's up,
baby? What's up, baby?
Hey, man, how you been? It's been a week since I talked to you.
I've been good. Just kind of doing my voiceover stuff and teaching. This is like the last week I'm teaching this set of classes. I teach classes on the online platform, teaching kids how to draw anime. So
yeah, I know. I've seen those.
Saying bye to a lot of my students. Whimper,
Aww.
sniff.
I guess you'll see a few of them back at least during the next year, the next school season, whenever that starts.
I have a lot of returning school students, so like some of them might be returning for this summer. But actually, you know, I'm actually happy that I'm not getting that many subscriptions for this summer because you know everything's opening up now, and these kids could actually go to a live camp. You know, so you know, I'm really happy about that for them. You know.
Yeah, it is crazy with everything opening up recently. I'm super stoked about it, and you know, I got my vaccinations. Arthur, get on that, please, sir, because they're opening everything up, and I want you to stay safe, and so we can continue to sit around and talk shit about comic books and pop culture freaking nonsense. Because you know, you got to do the important stuff so we can do the stupid stuff.
Oh yeah,
oh yeah. So now you were telling me just before we got to recording, for those who don't know, both Arthur and I are big fans of Mark Bernardin's work, and, you know, his podcast with Kevin Smith is hilarious if you aren't listening to Fat Man Beyond.
Yeah, let's let them know a little bit about Mark Bernardin. So Mark Bernardin used to work for The Hollywood Reporter. He was just a writer and got scoops and stuff, but he always wanted to be just like a writer, a screenwriter and stuff. And he started... You know, he knew Kevin Smith because they're both from Jersey, and like he started working on Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman podcast, and at first they just started reviewing movies. They were reviewing the Batman movies, like they would actually have like their own commentary while the movie was going, and it just was revealed like just how bright and intelligent and creative Mark was. And it was really great because Kevin just gave Mark this platform to blossom and bloom all these years. And I really feel like with him making this short and all the other stuff he's worked on, he's already worked on a lot of projects now. This Stephen King thing, Star Trek show as like head writer, and he's in all these writer rooms. Now he's about to strike out and direct on his own. I feel like he's about to take over, man.
Well, yeah, I loved his work on Castle Rock. That was excellent. And I think I know he's also on the new Masters of the Universe project, so can only benefit from his involvement.
Oh, heck yeah.
So, yeah, I think he's even crowdfunding some of the money that it's going to take to get this project off the ground, I heard.
Yes. He released the first poster for it, which looks fantastic. Almost kind of looks like a Nolan-esque when you look at the poster.
Cool.
It's called Splinter, and he's crowdfunding right now, and I just can't wait to see what he does. I've talked to him a few times, and actually played Word with Friends with him a few times.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm just really happy for him.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. So if people like this sort of stuff, go check out Mark Bernardin and his movie Splinter, and help support it if that's the sort of thing that you have the means to do.
Heck yeah.
You know, I was looking at this morning was some stills leaked from Matt Reeves' The Batman, which I know it's not part of the larger universe, and we've set our piece on that, but it's looking really gritty. I mean, really gritty.
I mean, Matt Reeves is great. I mean, the movie looks great. I just hate that DC has like like 11 billion Batmans running around, you know?
If this is 1 out of 11 billion, then give me 11 billion because this looks cool. One of the things that I know, I want it all. But one of the things I really like about this is that they are apparently modeling the Riddler after the real life Zodiac killer, which is dark as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just by Paul Dano's performance, like that's what's the biggest grabbing thing of that first trailer that they came out with. You know, despite the look, you know, we have a very svelte Batman this time around. I don't really care. I mean, most of the Batmans besides Christian Bale and Ben Affleck have all kind of been lean, skinny guys. So I don't really care about Robert Pattinson bulking up. You know, it's so funny because they make him look like the Cure version of Batman. Mascara.
Oh man, but in that little teaser trailer where you see he beats that thug to a pulp, I believe it. He looks like he could pull that off. He looks good. I like the stripped down old school Batmobile.
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. Again, like I mean, you speaking about the further characterization of Riddler. I mean, it feels like that character is going to be the standout. You know. Because the Riddler, they haven't really done the Riddler correctly yet.
The Riddler's always been put a goofy mask and a bowler on him, and I mean Jim Carrey did the character in, I can't think of the year that movie came out, but
95.
Yeah, something like that, and yeah, it's over the top, and he's playing the part that was written for him, so you can't really blame him for how that movie turned out. There's a lot of blame for that.
Every villain in that movie was playing the Joker, basically.
Yeah.
You know, Tommy Lee Jones was playing the Joker, and Jim Carrey was playing the Joker. So I mean, and honestly, to be fair, they've been kind of all over the place with the Riddler in the comic books too. Like, I mean, depending on who's writing the Riddler, they've turned him into all sorts of different stuff. Like, so I'm loving the direction that they're going on this.
Me too. I think he's really pulling from his horror roots in Cloverfield and stuff, and it looks like something I'm going to enjoy. So I was stoked to see those stills. I think they look fucking insane.
Talking about riddles, like the game that I'm playing on PS5 is just full of riddles. It's called Returnal, and it's a roguelike game, and roguelike games are basically this kind of style of games that started with Demon Souls about 10 years ago, where it's like these super hard games, and they're very unforgiving, and you can't really have a save point usually, and you like lose all your progress, and they're just like really, really hardcore, and
that sounds just awful.
Yeah. It was a natural progression for, people that have been playing video games for 30 years, like, because there was a time where everything just became so easy, like characters would just heal out of nowhere, and like there were save points everywhere. So
there was nothing easy about Battletoads, I'll have you know. That game was fucking impossible. I defy anyone to tell me with a straight face they ever beat Battletoads for Nintendo. Never. Tommy has some
flashbulb memory, and he's stuck firmly in 93.
Like I said, video games is one of the areas where my geek bona fides sort of don't hold up. So I love hearing about this stuff from you.
Oh yeah, man. I stay on it. I mean, I have to admit that I've grown a little weary of games. I only really come out when like it's a triple A game, and I have been interested in a VR, what's happening with Oculus and stuff. So, like Oculus, they just came out with a new addition to their upgrades with because there's Oculus 2 and then there's Oculus 1, and they've put a upgrade on Oculus 1 that allows you to do app sharing, so you can share apps and stuff, and they're just really being set to take over right now as far as like making it more available to everybody, and they're doing really good as far as that.
Neat. I'll tell you a funny thing. I've never in my life worn VR goggles or glasses or whatever you happen to call them. I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to sound so old right now where I'm just like I've never even touched one. So I know very little about it. I know that there was some controversy because Facebook, or the company behind Facebook, apparently produces a set of VR goggles or whatever, glasses, whatever you might call them, and they require a Facebook subscription to use them. And I know I just saw
Yeah,
here and there.
that's a lot. That's a lot. It's really, it actually has turned a lot of people off. But
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, but the people that do stay on, it's really great VR. It's like mobile VR. It's
Well,
not
I've heard
tied
that
to
that's the
anything.
controversy, is that it's high quality equipment, but that
Yeah.
one little snagging point gets under people's skin.
Well, I mean, it's more like a story about like how like Facebook is now approaching its like midlife crisis. You
Yeah,
know, like with like
yeah, they got a
they have
reckoning
to do
coming.
something like this to make sure they keep people on board, because people have been deactivating their accounts, like
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
I'm frequently not. I don't post frequently on Facebook or anything. I'm
Mhm.
more of an Instagram guy,
Oh yeah, I mean
which they own
that's
too.
still
So what does it
Facebook.
matter?
Yeah, that's still Facebook. I mean, there's definitely things that it's good for. Like if you're in a business, it's free advertising.
For
You
sure.
know, and people either take advantage of it or don't. Other than that, just like anything else, like kind of fads die down. You know, then with Facebook, being used as a tool for other countries to like
Hmm.
do undo damage to us, like it just really puts a bad
For
taste
us
in
to do
everybody's mouth.
damage to ourselves.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
God. But
Oh yeah.
it's interesting that you have Facebook, and then they are this sort of leader in VR technology, which I see the applications together, but it further speaks to like how things are becoming so conglomeratized, if I can make up
Mm-hmm.
a word, where everything just gets, the companies just get bigger and bigger and bigger and eat everything around them. To that end, Amazon is making a $9 billion bid for MGM Studios right now. And then additionally, we have a merger between Discovery Media and AT&T Warner Media that would combine TLC, HGTV, Food Network with CNN, HBO, and Warner Brothers as one massive company. And that would take $43 billion from Discovery going to AT&T for like a 29% share. So
It's so funny how these telecom companies and social media companies are buying all the entertainment industries. Like
well,
it's
it's just
just
the consolidation of everything.
yeah,
So it's pretty intense to see
yeah.
that coming through. For the Amazon deal, basically what it does is it gives them essentially James Bond, all of the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings franchises, um, Rocky, RoboCop, stuff like that,
Yeah.
and like it gives them way more content to distribute on their platform because they've put a ton of money into producing their own content, and this
Mm-hmm.
just expands their library exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
But the question then becomes, at what cost? As you continually consolidate studios and continually consolidate production houses and production companies, it gives creative professionals fewer and fewer places to sell their wares, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The feature is unsure.
So I like that there's big budgets being put behind what would have been formerly small projects. Say what you will about something like Jupiter's Legacy or any of the other comic book stuff that's coming out. Like there's money behind this stuff. So if you like that kind of content, you're going to see big production value. But with the consolidation of all these companies, you just might see fewer instances of it.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know. So I hope that all the millionaires and billionaires do really well on their mergers and acquisitions. We're all really pulling for you. I tell you, somebody who's not going big is John Boyega, and that might be either his choice or not, given some of his controversies that he's had with the larger studios. I mean, almost exactly to that point, he's picked a fight with Marvel/Disney, and that severely limits his options as far as projects that he can work on. But
What did he
looks like
do?
well, because he came out and publicly criticized the way that his character was managed by
Oh,
by
in Star Wars?
Disney. Yeah, yeah. And he's
Oh,
right. I mean, he's
like
completely right.
he's been having pushback on that.
No. But what I mean to say is that just like somebody like Ray Fisher, it's when you come out and publicly criticize the people who cut your paycheck, you have to expect fewer paychecks from them. I think you just do. And the proof is in, I mean, we haven't seen since that whole outburst from him. We don't see him on any big budget project, so to speak. I mean, his career trajectory, starting with Attack the Block and, big budget franchises like Pacific Rim, big budget
Mm-hmm.
franchises like Pacific Rim, and then Star Wars, of course. Like, he has remarkably little scheduled for somebody who has done that much. And I think that that's partially because so many companies are wrapped up under the Disney umbrella. And if you bite the hand that feeds, don't expect another hand.
I don't know. I don't really like in his situation Ray Fisher, because Ray Fisher wasn't that well known, and he definitely, it's all Ray Fisher had was to rail against Warner Brothers. With John Boyega, I mean, he still has things like that's coming out. Like, he has a Attack of the Block 2 coming out.
Oh, exactly. Well, that was what I was going to talk about today, for sure. But Attack the Block 2 seems a little bit more like a return to his roots than it is the ever-increasing sort of project load. I don't mean to say that he got it as bad as Ray Fisher, that their situations are identical, just that both of them have now publicly criticized the production companies they formerly worked for, was my only contention on that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot more about John Boyega that like really leads me to know that like there's a lot of things that are more important to him. Because like when Black Lives Matter was coming out, like he went out and gave this speech and he said,
Yeah, I
I'm probably
remember
not
that.
going to make another movie again because of this, but this is more important. And what you had was J.J. Abrams and a bunch of other directors saying, no, we got your back. And that was after he had spoken out against the Star Wars stuff. So I don't know. I think John is good.
Yeah, you think
You
he's
know,
okay?
I think Ray Fisher is going to have issues because, he just keeps, you can see that he just, I don't know. He doesn't really have the best tactics about going about this. It's like, say your piece and then go work on something. But all he's had for the past year is him still trying to fight Warner Brothers.
Yeah, it's true.
To the point where he sounds like really petty when he has his little jibes on Twitter.
Yeah,
It's like Warner Brothers is making a black Superman. I mean, you can feel how you want. What about that? I definitely have my feelings about it. But like to see him say, "Oh, now you guys want a black Superman?" Like, Ray Fisher, can you calm down, please?
Well, I think you're right. Ray Fisher would have been better served if he did it more like John Boyega, which is to be super direct and specific about your gripes, say your piece, and be done. Because he still hasn't elaborated
was
much.
completely right about what they did. That was unprecedented. Well, it's not even unprecedented. It's actual the reality of Hollywood.
Yeah.
And how they deal with like black people, because like it's such an alien concept to them. The idea of a lead black actor in a Star Wars movie is like an alien concept, like as ironic as that sound,
Yeah.
So
Black people in space?
Exactly. I mean, you saw the hubbub, and and then you saw what eventually came down. Like, I don't even want to talk about it now. It always makes me pissed off.
I know.
Like what happened to what happened to Finn in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
If Finn was white, that never would have happened.
If he was white, this never would have happened.
Oh yeah, if he was a white character, that never would have happened in that story, ever.
That's fair. And unfortunately, just today we lost somebody who would have certainly agreed with you. Paul Mooney, dead at age 79. Just found out this morning.
I saw what they did with those movies, Tom, and I have to tell you, I saw what they did, and they stole everything from me. Star Wars stole everything from me. Okay, this is Paul Mooney, and I'm saying this before my death. I have to say, Star Wars stole everything from me.
No, Paul, you sold everything you ever had.
I love Paul Mooney.
Richard Pryor owes half his career to you.
He's a crazy nigga.
He was so good when he got reintroduced to a whole new generation through Chappelle's show. And
oh, heck yeah, man. Love Paul Mooney, man.
So he'll be missed. You know,
79 years old.
He's the kind of voice that we could really use these times, you know, really get some fucking perspective on some things. And then also similarly this week, we also lost a great character actor, Charles Grodin, at age 86.
Love Charles Grodin, man.
Yeah.
Who else we lose?
He was 86.
Oh, I thought you said somebody else.
No. Paul Mooney.
Yeah, the last thing I saw Charles on was he played a doctor on the Louis C.K. show.
Yeah.
And I didn't even recognize him until he started speaking more because he was just like very older.
And he has a very distinct voice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the first time I saw him was in the Clifford movie when I was a kid.
Yeah, he did like those dog movies because he did that. And he did another. There was another movie where he played opposite a dog, but that was Charles Grodin. He was a character actor. His job was to pull faces and ham it up, but then also be his own straight man, which is a tough. It's a tough gig to pull off, but he was good at it.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll be missed for sure.
Yeah, man, Grodin and Mooney.
Yeah, so, you know, and the only other news thing that I thought I would love to get your opinion on, I only read about it the other day, and I'm not even like for the show, whatever, but just to hear what you have to think about this. So, you know the movie Basic Instinct, right? Sharon Stone infamously or famously, whatever the case, is exposed in that movie. And she claims that she didn't know it was going to be done. And like all of the shit surrounding that one scene in that one movie is just gross on all sides. They are releasing a 30th anniversary, what they call a director's XXX cut.
Wow.
XX. So they are going to show some of the extended sex scenes, and they are leaning into the quote sexual infamy of this film. Now, I love Paul Verhoeven. You know, RoboCop is a classic, and you know, Starship Troopers is a classic. But what happened to Sharon Stone through the production of this movie and the way she was treated in regards to that shot? Like, I find her description of those events completely credible, and she's pretty upset about this now super high def 90s Blu-ray release. You know, now everyone gets to see her vagina in 4K, and she's not happy about it.
Yeah,
and
I mean, why would she? I mean,
well, the contention from Verhoeven is that she should have known. That if a director comes to you and tells you to take your underwear off before a shot, you got to know what's going to be in the shot.
Yeah.
And you were talking just last week about that sort of shit in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, the tale of women in society for the centuries and centuries has just been a horror show, you know? And like what it takes to become a Sharon Stone, like all the things, like, I mean, the casting couch, like that visual and idea just looms over Hollywood for the decades and decades of, you know, you could be so talented, but all your talent doesn't mean anything unless you lie on your back.
Yeah.
You know, and then that extends itself to the screen, you know, so it's like, because you're on the day, like the pressure couldn't be more real.
Oh yeah.
When you're on the day on set, and it's like that day alone, and every hour is costing like $25,000 per hour. And then all of a sudden they say, okay, and you know, depending on what director you're working with, you know, some of these directors are crazy. Like they want you to be a little off kilter and you know, because it just makes their movie look good.
Right.
But they don't care about your mental health in the process. You know, so then this situation is like, okay, so then this is the part where you show your vagina, and whoa, excuse me, what? Did I stutter? So in this part, you're gonna show your vagina. We didn't talk about that. Are you gonna ruin this day?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
everybody here is waiting on you. This is what your character does. You're not doing this. Your character's doing it. And her argument was, she said that Verhoeven said to her that that her white panties were, quote, reflecting light and showing through her costume. So just remove them so that we don't mess up the shot, but no one's going to see anything. Verhoeven claims he never said that.
Wow. Look at that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's pretty gross.
Man, I feel for her.
I feel
man.
for her too.
I feel for her. It's just weird that whoever's distributing that would like allow this to happen, because like how important is it that that has to be all super HD and stuff? Like how important is it? I mean, it's not like we could see it clearly back then,
right?
You know, it was more about the action more than anything, like, you know. So
it was more infamous than it was scandalous.
It's really interesting what they're doing now on sets, because like now they have like a sexual scene coach now, like that's there to make sure everybody's fine.
Yep.
And they make sure that everything's choreographed and that everybody feels okay with what they're doing, versus how they used to do stuff before, you know. It's like before you had to be like professional.
Yeah.
It's like it's to be expected.
Nobody was watching over your shoulder.
Yeah. So I like the way things are going now, but like, I mean, that's is definitely indicative of the past, like misogyny.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. And yeah, Sharon Stone did mention that when she was asked about this 30th anniversary, blah, blah, blah. And she says, you know, I'm glad that there are protections in place now, and it's unfortunate that we didn't have those then. Oh yeah.
I mean, with Sharon Stone being the big star that she was like in the 90s, I remember back then hearing all these stories. I used to read the magazine Premiere like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So like I remember these interviews of her talking about having to deal with guys that had real erections.
Yeah.
And guys that were actually really trying to have sex with her in the scene.
No, it's funny that you should mention that, because she mentioned in the article that while she won't name names, she has said that on numerous occasions, both directors and producers have asked her to sleep with her co-stars to improve the chemistry on screen. And she says she's never done so, but that she was appalled at literally how many times this was requested, and that this seems to be a normal line of thinking in Hollywood. Like, oh, your two stars have poor chemistry. If you can get them to have sex together, that'll improve the end product. And that's madness.
Well, I mean, speaking of just, being part of the industry and being like kind of avid like historian on a lot of stuff, you're thinking about like, foreign directors, like other places where, like sexual taboos aren't anything, this is not to excuse what they do, but I can see like why certain directors would just like be so nonplussed about stuff like this, and then expect like total compliance with things like that.
Right.
Right. Because they're so obsessed with the reality of their movie, they're willing to do anything for it.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, like one time, Spike Jonze, one of my favorite directors, he didn't want any canned fear reactions from his child for the movie Where the Wild Things Are, Max Records.
Mm-hmm.
So he, during a pivotal scene, this dude like implanted like a rocket under the ground.
What?
And during the moment where he's supposed to react, he launched that crap and scared the bejesus out of this kid.
Yeah.
And he's like, yes, I got what I need. But it's like, but to what end, bro?
Yeah. I mean, don't go full Kubrick. That's all.
Oh man. I mean, but then if you go full Kubrick, you get like the most memorable movies ever.
God. Why does art have to be awesome and terrible at the same time?
Exactly. I remember like this is one of my favorite stories about like different like methods for accomplishing the same thing. So like this is Laurence Olivier and Dustin Hoffman on Marathon Man, I believe it was called.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this, Dustin Hoffman was like super method actor at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and Laurence Olivier was like, he was like more of an old school or Shakespearean actor.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of was that, like these two actors of different acting generations being pitted up against each other. So there was a scene where Dustin had to he had to be like really worn out from like and like just from running like all across town. So Dustin actually like ran for like, I don't know, like 30 minutes or something and stuff. When he came to the set just exhausted, and Laurence Olivier looked at him and was like, "Can't you act like you're tired?"
Did anyone tell
He
this man about
pissed
acting?
Dustin off.
That's too good.
Oh man.
See, we need a story like that to shake off, the ugliness of Hollywood sometimes.
Yeah. Complete ugliness.
But yeah, I think that's about all I got on the news. Unless you got any other news, we could talk about some of the stuff that we've been watching this week.
Oh yeah, let's get into it.
All right, so we'll start. We'll save the big one. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Nevers and the mid-season finale, wherever it falls in the series. The end for now. But first thing I want to talk about was a recent release on Netflix called Yasuke, which is the story of the first Black samurai.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So Arthur's familiar with the story, but you haven't seen the cartoon yet, right?
Yeah, because I heard LaKeith Stanfield was in it.
So yeah, so right now, the most I tried to move on, but we can't yet. So yes, this is a 6-episode anime that was produced by Netflix. Was released just in the last couple of weeks, I believe the last week of April, and it stars LaKeith Stanfield as the titular Yasuke, who is the first Black samurai in Japan, taking place the whole story taking place right around like 1585 to give people some context for it. Now, we have, of course, as we often do, differing opinions on LaKeith Stanfield, but we both agree he is not good in this.
I love LaKeith. I just don't think he has a lot of skill. And they're putting him in the forefront when he doesn't have a lot of skill to be a leading man a lot of times, and they often do this with some Black people when they become the flavor of the month.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's like the emperor wears new clothes, like in this situation.
Well, I guess so, to your point, because he's been in so many he is very in demand right now, and so being in demand,
he's interesting.
He's
interesting. He looks good on looks good on camera, but none of that like is a substitution for like actual skill, to what it takes to be different characters. Like he has the spacey thing down on Atlanta, and plus he's working with like Donald Glover.
Yeah, he's
probably
amazing.
One of the best people Atlanta. he could work with on that show. But then being put on these other shows, like I feel like he was good in small doses when it came to Get Out.
Yeah.
But sorry not to bother you. He was miscast.
Yeah.
The movie he did with Issa Rae, The Photograph, miscast. No chemistry.
I like him in Death Note. I know that Death Note is fucking terrible. I've seen the Japanese version. It's amazing. The comic book is amazing, but like the Americanized Netflix Death Note is, well, Willem Dafoe is amazing, but I really like him. But again, he's playing quirky. He's playing weird, which he plays weird very well.
Yeah, that's fine. It's not like he's not without talent. My thing, and that's fine that he's playing a side role. I think he'd be great for a lot of supporting roles. Like he needs to really build his way up to being a leading man, because he hasn't been successful so far from what I've seen. It's an odd thing, right? Because he's definitely the lead character and Judas in the Black Messiah, but somehow he gets nominated for supporting actor. Isn't that strange?
That goes back to what we were talking about last week for sure.
But
yeah, so it seems to be, at least to me, that he rises to the quality of the projects around him a lot, and unfortunately sticking him in a booth with a microphone I don't think is the best place for him.
Exactly. It's like I'm speaking from my own experience as a voiceover actor.
You're in a booth with a microphone
right now. Literally right now. Live in full effect. It's Arthur in his booth. So the thing is, it's a lot of like big actors and Hollywood actors alike, they underestimate like what it means to be a voice actor.
Yeah.
You know, because voice acting can be very difficult.
Sure.
Because you have to go to a booth and imagine everything. Like you're in a place where it's not giving you visual reference or any of those sort of things that like help you complete the role.
Right.
You have to be so imaginative and really work something to make something real come out of just your voice.
Yeah.
So if you're already lacking, I imagine that you're not going to really do that well at voice acting. I imagine his performance was very flat.
It is very flat. And to be honest, he's not really given much to work with. I mean, when I saw this, I thought it had so much potential. I'll explain where the potential is. So I will give you first the actual story of Yasuke, which is fucking amazing and crazy. And then I will tell you what they actually made a cartoon of. And to think that these two things are the same is insane. So in brief, the story of Yasuke, they have recorded in 1579. He arrives in Japan with Italian missionaries, essentially, that are trading with Japan prior to them closing their borders and committing to a concept of isolation. So in 1581, he makes his way from the trading docks to the actual capital, where he then meets the daimyo Oda Nobunaga. Nobunaga travels with Yasuke, is totally infatuated with the fact that he's a black guy. There's a story they tell where he has him scrubbed clean, quote unquote. And when he realizes that really is his skin and not just a trick, he insists on making him part of his entourage. Now, all reference shows that he was not a slave per se. Apparently, these Italian missionaries weren't permitted to have slaves. He would have been more like just a paid helper, so to speak. But by all rights, he was 6'2", extremely strong, and very well trained in hand-to-hand combat. So he moves from Alessandro Vigano's service over to now Oda Nobunaga's service and becomes his master of arms. And in June 1582, at the Battle of Temokazan, Oda Nobunaga is betrayed by one of his generals, who then forces him to commit ritual suicide, and that functionally ends his campaign for a unified Japan. Yasuke escapes this coup and joins up with Nobunaga's son, Oda Nobuta, and continues the resistance against the now traitor who is running his father's army. They have a last stand battle where Nobuta is killed and Yasuke is captured. And from this point, there are differing reports on what happens, but most people agree that since he was not Japanese, they did not deem him necessary to be killed, but was instead sold back to some other group of Christian missionaries back at the capital. And from there, the trail on his life goes completely cold. So here's a guy who likely started out as a slave, then gained his freedom, joined up with Italian missionaries, goes to Japan, learns Japanese, travels to the city, impresses the head of Japan so much that he joins his army and his entourage, fights with this man at his last stand, joins his son, fights with this man at his last stand, is captured, sold back into slavery. Like, holy shit. What an amazing fucking story, right?
That's like every black person during that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And so then I'm going, all right, by the way, another little note is that Chadwick Boseman was producing a film based upon his life when he died. So that's another thing we lost.
Yeah, he was doing a live action version.
It would have been amazing. So I'm going, all right, I'm psyched to see this. It just came out, Yasuke, blah, blah, blah. I watch it, and spoilers, I'm going to spoil Yasuke for you so that you don't have to watch it. They talk about some of the stuff that I just mentioned, but this takes place years after Asahi Mitsuhide has now taken over Japan. He was the traitor that had betrayed Nobunaga and Nobuto, and he is systematically hunting out resistance in the country. You're like, oh, that's an interesting story. He's also teamed up with a kind of super powered demon who then builds an army of undead, superpowered demon soldiers, and also is in search of a magic little girl named Saki who has telekinetic powers that can bring all of their reign to an end. What the fuck? Like, I'm watching this, I'm totally into it, and then partway through the first episode, a goddamn robot shows up. Like a mech robot and a Russian werebear are working as mercenaries to track down the, Harry Potter special snowflake girl that will change the whole world.
History's boring, Tommy.
History is not boring. They have flashbacks to these battles where you show him being betrayed and Yasuke being there at the last stand of Nobunaga, and like none of that stuff is boring in the anime. But then we come back to the future, quote unquote, and now Yasuke is working as a river ferryman and accidentally gets wrapped up in this whole quest for the one magic girl, and it's a lot of lasers and magic and monsters and weirdness. When then just make that story. But like, why does that character have to be Yasuke, and why did I watch this bullshit? So I'm like, it had so much goddamn potential and it just turned into everything else. So I think that he's not I think LaKeith Stanfield is not helped by this in any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my 50-cent review of Netflix Yasuke. If that sounds like something you're into and you want to see a 12-year-old girl telekinetically rip monsters apart, and it's bloody and it's gory, and I enjoy that aspect of it. It's really, it's full anime.
Yeah, it's standard fare for anime.
The story is insipid, and then in light of the actual history becomes insulting. So yeah, I didn't like it.
To me, off the cuff, it just seems like whoever made this animation, and usually it's like Asian houses that do these things. They probably weren't interested in this black man's life, so they just put whatever ideas, like whatever back pocket ideas they had, and loaded it into this movie to if this is going out to general audiences.
Yeah, it was so generic.
That's what it sounds
boring.
like to me. Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
So Netflix, if you're listening, and I assume you are, Yasuke season 2, A Return to the Past. Okay, go and tell the actual goddamn story. Or I think there are a number of other. They said that even following Chadwick Boseman's death, they are going to continue to develop that project, although it's of course been admittedly delayed for obvious reasons. But I hope to God that they don't do this. Just tell the story. There's relatively little known, so you have plenty of room to fill in all the dots with crazy fights and bullshit, but like, just tell the fucking story. Do not give me telekinetic, superpowered little girl that needs to be saved by the Black Samurai. Just stop. Yeah. Just stop.
Yeah.
So that sucked. That's my transition right there. That sucked.
I love it.
But you know what didn't suck? Our final topic for the day, which is...
The Nevers.
You're damn right it is. Now, I know this is just a love fest for you, sir.
Yeah, man. I got to say, I'm really so happy. I'm so happy to see quality stuff, man. Like Mortal Kombat physically hurt me, and...
Jesus, that horse is dead. Stop beating it.
Stop beating it.
Stop beating it.
Yeah, man. It's just like great dialogue, like swift, well thought out plotting. There's a couple of things I predicted.
Yeah.
And just to let you guys know, this is the non-spoiler part of our talk.
Yes.
But then there was like a genuine twist, like I did not see coming, and I'm like, what?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's so deep. It's so deep that you're watching and you get that twist, and you're like, is there a problem with the stream? Am I watching the same show? Like, is this even the same program? Like, that's how deep the twist. It makes you question everything. Makes you question everything. It's brilliant.
Oh heck yeah. Yeah, just to rattle off a couple of things that are non-spoilery, the Nevers is basically kind of like a ye old Victorian sort of X-Men style story
Mm-hmm.
that circles around this sort of orphanage style place that takes in a lot of women. The way women are treated is like it's a current theme that goes throughout this story. And there's a bunch of nefarious forces that are out to destroy this new crop of power to people. And it's not just women, but it tends to be a lot of women that are being affected by these mysterious gifts and powers and stuff. They call them the touched. And right now there's 6 episodes on HBO, and it's telling a rousing story. What do you have to say? Because like we talked about the pilot.
Oh yeah.
But we've now both seen all 6 episodes. Like, what else can we say that's non-spoilery?
Well, I think that your summation of the property is pretty darn good. I mean, what we're going to do is we're going to follow these superpowered individuals as they try to discover the purpose of these powers and try to fight against some of the different forces that are aligning against them. Non-spoilery, I think we can also reference just obviously the main characters are the 2 women that run the orphanage and their respective,
and they're fantastic. They're so
Laura
good.
Donnelly and Anne Skelly absolutely carry this thing. And totally not spoilery, Laura Donnelly will be one of your favorite actresses by the end of episode 6. She carries that episode so hard, and she does so much work in that episode that you can't view her the same at the end of it as you do the beginning, because she's playing her character very straight through the first 5 episodes, and we get a good sense of, if not, her total backstory, who she is and what she's doing. And Laura Donnelly plays this character beautifully. And then in episode 6, we start really exploring emotionally what this character is. And, we're all different people when we address our emotions, or when we start reaching into our motivations. How we act and how we feel can often be different things. And I think a lot of actors have trouble displaying that type of duality on screen, but she just rocks the hell out of it.
And can we talk about like how she's Kristen Ritter's twin? This is like the British Jessica Jones.
She is absolutely like European Jessica Jones. We kicked on that last week, and she kicks so much ass in this. I mean, her ability, because she's not a big woman, she's a small lady, but you believe that she is doing the things that she's doing when she, in typical style for this sort of property, goes around and just whoops some ass. I believe it.
Oh yeah. I mean, so there's so much about this that screams that this is a Joss Whedon show, from the dialogue to it being largely a woman cast. But then there's the parts that like scream that this is a HBO series.
Yes.
It just feels like different Game of like HBO, like popular HBO series, mostly Game of Thrones.
Oh, well, there's a lot of casual nudity, which, is in the context, I think it's effective contextually. I don't think you just throw nudity on the screen to be titillating and stuff, but I think that something like Game of Thrones and something like Victorian London, it's perfectly in place.
Yeah, I think they were really, really reserved about like when they would try to do that type of stuff. It was very, it really served the stories whenever it did happen.
Yeah.
All right, so what else can we say before we go into spoilers?
Well, I mean, there's almost nothing, because it's tough. If you haven't seen it, why are you even listening? Why? Like, go and watch it. The only other thing I will say is that, we've sat here and gushed all over it a little bit. I want to be a little hypercritical. It is really busy, and it gets from point A to point B on a couple of bumpy roads. And so I feel like there's a lot of villains, quite frankly. And I think that once we get to spoilers, we're going to get into just some of the ways that this is maybe a little bit too big for the number of episodes or the amount of screen time that we've gotten, because it's going to get weird in a big bad way. And so before we talk about that, you better be prepared. If you thought it was big for the finale, it's a lot to wrap up. And I think that sometimes dangling plot threads are good for, like anticipation as far as what's coming next. But I think that this show could resolve just a few more of them. That said, we're gonna spoil the shit out of it now, I think. Right?
Well, before we go on spoilers, I just wanted to push back a little bit, because I feel like, as seeing stuff that has a bunch of like stuff in it just as like extra fluff or extra fat, depending how you look at it. I mean, this doesn't really feel like it. I feel like, there is a lot of different characters, but they're also varied in all varying shades of gray, that like no one really feels like a very particular like villain. When it comes down to everybody's actions and what they're doing, it just, everyone has like a different thing that they're aiming for. And which even goes to like one of the episodes where some of the characters are actually going to bat for one of the earlier villains.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I feel like it's pretty organic, especially for a time like that. I was making a point to my friend yesterday that I think is really clever, that, taking this whole sort of X-Men trope and putting it in Victoria, England is really clever, because, usually you have to deal with like, a country that has a pretty well-structured authority system. So where like you'd have like the cops and scientists and stuff trying to put the kibosh on these type of people. But in this sort of setting, there's no real system set in place like that. So it's looked at more as like a play.
Yeah.
And something that they have to deal with.
Yeah, the chaos of normal society is a little bit more normal. There are fewer organized structures designed to deal with this. No, I agree. And I don't mean to say that there's a lot of fat on it. If anything, I think there's not enough fat on it for the amount of story they're telling. I just want a little bit more time, because like you said, the villains are gray. There are a lot of them, and every one of them has varying motivations that we're coming to understand. I just feel like it's a bit much. That's all. That's just me.
Well, it's spoiler time. Echo effect, echo effect,
You're
echo
damn
effect.
right it is. So do we go Pulp Fiction and start at the end? Or do you want to get up to there? So here, tell me what you're thinking.
Okay, so we already talked about the first episode, which was directed by Joss Whedon, and you could really feel that because of the type of kind of action scenes that were in there. But as we go on the story, and we're dealing with Amalia, and we're dealing with Penance, who's like my favorite character of the show.
Well, she's just so genuine.
Penance is this. She's like this really cool inventor, and she's kind of the Willow, right?
Yeah,
was the Willow the character in Buffy?
Mixed with Q from James Bond.
She's kind of like the Willow type of, like, if Joss Whedon has like his kind of stock characters, she completely fits that. And she's
the moral center of the group.
Oh yeah, she's just such a great duo, and she has some of the most like so many funny lines, like the way she delivers some of these lines, because like she's a very smart character, and she realizes the irony in some of the things that she's saying as she says it, and she has some of the best delivery when doing some of those things to make them come out so
she
organic.
Does wide-eyed wonder so well. She's fantastic in this. I think we'll see a lot more of her in the future.
Oh yeah. That being said, the show balances like all of the characters very well, from their powers to the things that they think about to putting all of the kind of like several streams of plots together. But I really have to give it up to like a lot of the action scenes and stuff.
Mhm.
Like there's skipping to like episode 3, I think it was, when Amalia has to fight that dude on the water. I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, there's a really
That crap
good
was
fight.
amazing.
That's a really good fight. And it's fun. His powers still work even after he's dead, which I think, because I thought he was dead.
Yeah.
And then we come to find out later on he's still alive and he was just knocked out.
Yeah, he was knocked out. Basically, what we're talking about, guys, is that Amalia, she's often targeted throughout the series, and at some point she's attacked by this dude whose power is like he could basically walk on water, but he's this really big burly dude. So he just found the perfect place to commit his assassination on Amalia. So yeah, that was such a cool scene because, instantly she goes, she's thrashed into the water, and she always has to think quick because this guy's walking on water. Of course he's going to be moving faster than her because she has to swim underwater, and she has to do all this clever stuff to fight this dude who has so much leverage over her. And it's just like, it's just really creative.
It's super original. Yeah,
scene.
if you have two people fighting on water, where one can walk on water and the other can't. That makes for a really original fight scene.
Oh yeah. So I mean, there's stuff like that peppered out throughout the whole series, but then there's also like the tiny little things, So there's this one moment where Melody, who's fantastic in every scene.
Oh yeah,
she's like a mixture of Harley Quinn, Joker, Typhoid Mary. It's like just fantastic. All the lines that they give her, they give everybody so many great asides throughout this whole thing. It's like you and your boys are playing chess. Well, actually, it's cheese. You see, we play cheese. I don't want to hear it.
Well, and then what they do to her character at the end of in the final episode, in the final 2 episodes, what we learn,
Yeah, I really need to rewatch it because that threw me for a complete loop. It's like, how did she clean her teeth?
Well, what was funny? That's true. So yeah, spoilers again, always, spoilers. But, when she is finally captured and she's to be hanged, she swaps place with one of her sidekicks who resembles her because she's in makeup and disheveled and has a particular aesthetic through the whole show, that it's reasonable to believe that this other woman is her. And she is captured in Melody's place and is prepared to be hung. And Melody then dresses up and poses as a reporter to gain access to the police and gain access to information and gain access to the site where this is all going to go down.
But see, that reporter was there before, though. That's the thing. That's how they
maybe
that's what solidified this twist. Because I could not see this twist at all, and it's just like I guess she had makeup on her teeth the whole time.
She
I
might
guess.
have. I mean, the thing that was interesting was when we when we really get a good look of her on screen as the character Effie Boyle, reporter. Rachel looked over at me. She goes, "What's wrong with her face?" Like, what? She goes, "She's somebody in makeup. That's an awful wig. Why does she have such, she legit, if you pause and look at her, she looks weird." And so one of the things is she has a brow prosthetic and and admittedly kind of an awful wig, which is fitting with the character in the times, is clearly a wig. And when she tears all that stuff off and reveals, haha, I'm, has that Scooby-Doo moment where I'm really the bad guy you're looking for. It's like, oh, that's why she looks so weird for the last 20 minutes. That makes sense now. But the whole time we just thought that it was a production mistake. Why does that lady look so damn weird? You can't put your finger on it.
I mean, and that's the thing. There's so much asides and world intrigue that's aside from the plot. That's something that can easily get mixed up in the details. and they do that a lot in the series. So there was this one moment that I really enjoyed, because they pinned down so much about like what it is to be a woman in this world.
Mhm.
So there's a moment when she's with the detective that's played by
Mhm.
Ben Chaplin, Milady, masquerading as the reporter. When Ben turns around and she kind of is frightened, like has a really quick moment of being frightened by
Mhm.
fear, fear of a man,
Oh, I see. Yeah.
and that moment, like that at that moment, I still was thinking of her being a
Right.
reporter.
Right.
And what the reporter had been doing, because like again she's been throughout the series, that reporter character, and the stuff that she was actually reporting on, if she did report at all,
Mhm.
you know um I mean, I really have to
Yeah, yeah, well,
rewatch it.
that's it, and it helps because I started it before Rachel did, and because she was initially not terribly interested, and then I got through like 3 episodes, like, no, you need to watch this, and just going back 3 episodes back and rewatching opened up a ton more to me that I hadn't seen before. I can't imagine if I go back and rewatch it now after watching the whole first half of the season, it would open up even more, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I mean, you definitely see how lucid Milady actually
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
and how smart she actually is.
Yeah, that she can either play sane really well or plays crazy really well. It's one or the other.
Well, yeah. So I mean, that's one of the things I'm wondering about the series. Um, before we go into the big like episode 6 thing, I wanted to talk about Hugo Swan, James Norton, and the bird fellow. Uh, what's his name?
Yes.
Augustus.
Tom Riley.
Like they were great. I definitely got huge Game of Thrones vibes from him throughout his whole time in the
Yeah.
show, and could never really see how he figured in on the plot. Like, do you have any words about
Well,
that?
I
Because
actually was glad to see them figure Hugo into the plot just a little bit more at the end because it felt like they forgot about him for a little bit. Like, I'll say, I don't know if the show needs the entire subplot with the brothel and
yeah,
Hugo running a brothel and Augustus investing in the brothel. You know what? This is the exact same problem I'm going to give you. Like, we always bring this over and over again. Don't bring financial boardroom transactional nonsense into something where I want to see punchy punchy.
yeah, but it did make good for
It
like
makes for some good
some
tension,
good
but
just
like,
like laughs and
we don't
stuff.
have enough time to hear about the forms that need to be filed for you to be incorporated. We don't need it. We don't need it. So I was glad to see that they did more with him later. And I think his character existing to show us this whole other side of how the people with turns, the touched, have to adapt to society. Because as much as society adapts to them, he has this whole argument that don't they deserve to earn a living? Don't they deserve to do whatever the heck they want? They're people. And so to see him,
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, that makes sense. Like for him to represent, especially kind of like a LGBT sort of
oh, yeah.
energy throughout this series, that's a perfect venue for that. For somebody being kind of a liberal character, um, yeah, and also seeing the struggles that Ben Chaplin's characters went through, as far as
Oh,
like
yeah.
some of his closeted gay stuff.
And basically being blackmailed for it.
Yeah,
This show deals a lot with that.
I could never. That's the thing that was always unclear to me, because it's just like it seems like he just wanted him to come out, though. Not like he was really holding it against him,
Well, it felt
right?
like he was holding it against him so that he could get information from the police. He says point blank, like, that's our secret and that's how I'm going to,
Hmm.
do that. But I think that Hugo would prefer that he come out. Like, Hugo is out. Hugo makes no apologies for banging dudes and ladies. Like, he's 100% at home with that knowledge. And he just wants that freedom for
Hmm.
everyone else. Now, his wealth affords him, a certain measure of insulation from what would have been the consequences of the time for that behavior. but he is a pure hedonist. Never apologize. Nothing is wrong. There's only one life to live, and the only thing that matters is enjoying it as much as possible. And he plays that character brilliantly.
I wanted to bring this up when we're talking about the pilot, because Dennis O'Hare, the guy that plays like the Mad Doctor.
Oh yeah.
Dennis O'Hare is such like an HBO MVP. This dude kills it like in everything that he's in, man. He's so fantastic.
Yeah, and he is legit creepy in this show too.
Yeah, I love that HBO always bring back their dope stock group of actors. You know. Also, I saw the Lucy Best thing coming a mile.
Did you really see that it was Lucy?
Did you see that coming?
I knew that they were.
Yeah.
I knew that there was somehow getting information. I didn't see Lucy being a straight up traitor. That I didn't see.
It was to me, it was either her or the giant girl.
Oh, she's just a child though. They wouldn't make her a traitor.
But that's what would have made it like so unsuspecting. So but then you see a scene where it could not have been her. So then I completely cued in that it was Lucy's character. It was Lucy. You know, and I wanted it being proven right. So that one I was able to see that one, but I did not see the switch around with Milady.
No, I didn't see the whole thing with Malady coming. I didn't see the Lucy thing coming when she confronts her in the, you know, they're gonna go and they're gonna damage some of Lord Masson's munitions dumps and cost him, basically pay him back for some of the stuff he's been doing to them. And to have her turn on her right there and have them fight. I like the way that it resolved, where it was just kind of like, you know, I'm going to let you go. You're a traitor. And by all rights, I should kill you. But we've been through too much together. And she has to understand that just even the promise of a cure, which tells a lot, because she says, Lord Masson promised us a cure if I helped you, because I haven't, you know, touched anybody in forever, and etc. So, but what's interesting is later on, we have Lavinia Bidlow, who then, when she's looking at the big glowing blue orb that they find underground, goes, we were foolish to wish for a cure. So I am pretty darn certain that Bidlow and Masson are secretly working together. I think that's pretty obvious. And that what seems to be funny about this show is it seems like a lot of people are secretly working together without telling anyone else they're secretly working together. So like more of them are on the same side than any of them actually know, while they all fight against each other. So that's pretty good.
Can I get some more Nimble Jack, please? I feel so cheated. Because of the way they rolled it out, it feels like it's a complete season, and but they had just introduced all these characters within the last 2 to 3 episodes. It just feels like we're being robbed, but like, you know, they still have a whole other half of this season that he's.
Oh yeah, he's great. He is such a great character.
Can't wait for that.
No, he's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Did you know, like? So there's more fun attached to this character, because the actor playing Nibblejack, his name is Vinny Heaven.
That's a heck of a name. Did he pick that, or was he born with that?
Vinny Heaven. So great.
And according to IMDb, this is the only thing he's ever done. Wild.
Yeah. So. Then all the new side characters, like that tiny Asian woman who's like
super strong, just busting everybody out. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, we get a whole wealth of these new characters, because you know, from the first episode, basically the story takes us through learning that the character of Mary, who was formerly the fiance of the detective, Detective Mundy, has a power to project a song that only the touched can hear, and it's in a strange language. Now that I picked right off the bat was that when she's singing that song in that weird language, I looked over at Rachel and was like, oh, that little girl understands exactly what the heck she's saying. Like, I guarantee it. I guarantee, like, she's Chekhov's Polyglot. You know what I mean? She is introduced in the first scene of the first episode for no other reason than she's going to have to translate something later on that no one else can understand. And when I heard that song, and there's no language, there's no rhyme or reason to the words that are being spoken, I was like, oh, that little girl knows. And there's going to be a whole scene where they get a bunch of people together who speak different languages to translate what that song is. We're going to find out what she's singing about in that song, because they make a point to ask what she's singing about. What is she singing? And they're like, hope, it's love, it's hope, it's nothing concrete. And then we find out that no, it's a message from that glowing blue orb directly to Amalia saying, I'm here for you. Come find me. You're not alone, essentially. And we are left dumbstruck as an audience as to what the heck that could possibly mean.
Oh, yeah.
And then we jump forward 3 months
So good.
into episode 5. And suddenly now all of the characters know a lot more than we know as the audience. And this was something kind of annoyed me a little bit, is that we get introduced to the biggest spoiler of spoilers, that glowing blue ball is sentient and has a name and is called the Galanthe. And that the Galanthe is ultimately some kind of space alien. And that it's the one responsible for distributing these powers, and that it knows Amalia personally somehow, and that Amalia knows it personally somehow. And I did get a little bit annoyed. I felt like you can't just name a thing from between episodes. Like that should have been done on screen, where we get to be part of that process. But whatever, I get it, because after the big battle where, you know, at the end of episode 5, where the two different groups come together again, we're left with a lot of questions there too. So this show's going to leave you with questions, but that was a heck of an interesting, like, just drop on you. And all of the other characters know about the Galanthe and are totally cool with it and are completely up to speed and talk about it like it's the most familiar thing in the world. And we're left there going, wait, what? Oh, what? Just to glean what we can off their world building.
Yeah.
So that shit was wild.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the brevity is not, it's not like they have a lot of time to do stuff. You know?
They don't.
So, you know, I thought that was odd that they all of a sudden knew this name.
Yeah.
Does it say 3 months later?
Yeah. They talk about the amount of time that it's been 3 months while Malady has been put on trial. She's been found guilty and she is to be hanged. So the detective explains that, like, oh, 3 months ago we found her and put her on trial. That's not at all what he sounds like, but here we are.
I like that way better, Tommy.
Thank you. He's suddenly super cockney for some reason. But yeah, so they explain that it's been 3 months, and that's why everybody now has this deeper understanding of what's going on, because she's leveled with them to a certain degree, because now they know that she knows something.
There was one little moment that I loved with the polyglot character, where they gave her an opportunity for her to be understood one time. And it was just like, she just, when they were wondering about where, like, what happened with this character, she was able to just say the character's name. And she's like, oh, she just said that. I just like that little moment.
Like she's
that,
gaining
like,
some small measure of control or something.
Well, no, the thing is, the one thing you don't have to translate is a name.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I'm an idiot.
So the fact that they gave her that line was just a really cute thing.
That is cute,
because it's like you just expect her. Usually she's just railing off and you don't understand what she's saying. But then, the fact that because there's multiple people that's in that shot. So whenever she puts that name, whenever she like kind of like says that line, he's like, oh, it's her. We can understand her,
right?
Because she's saying a name.
Give her that line, damn it.
Yeah. So then we jump. What is it? 200 years in the future?
No, I think it's several hundred. I have no idea. I was looking to see if they gave a timeline. It's way in the damn future. hundreds of years potentially. And holy shit, episode 6. Why don't you give us the lead in, Arthur?
Okay, well, first of all, you don't. I actually had to pause and make sure I was watching the same show. Because, you know, what you've been seeing this whole time is a bunch of Victorian stuff. But then you're greeted with this kind of futuristic kind of thing. And at first when you're looking at the stuff, it's just like, that's an odd weapon that they have now. And then you're like, wait, this is the future.
This is a straight up spaceship. The first shot is a spaceship flying into frame, and goddamn like air marines or paratroopers falling down into like a wasteland London or some kind of wasteland in England. It was amazing.
Yeah, and then I think I might have been looking down because I don't think I remember seeing that shot.
It's the very first shot that opens the episode. I saw a small interview with Jane Espenson, and she's the writer for that episode. And she said that from day one, they wanted you to be in this Victorian world for 5 episodes, and for the opening shot of episode 6 to be a literal like spaceship flying over a dystopian
I just really
hellscape.
appreciate this.
Like,
I appreciate these surprises. I appreciate just the characters. It's so good to just see quality stuff, you know? And then, but then it's also saying chapter 1.
Yeah.
It has these lead-ins that haven't been part of the visual storytelling of the show. So it's really putting you off base. So you're meeting all these new characters, except for the Indian girl looks exactly
she
like
really
the other
did,
Indian.
right?
Is it the same actor?
No, it is not.
So that's what I thought. But she really looks exactly like the other one. And I thought what they were doing was they were because they were talking about people being born in pods.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking that maybe she's a descendant of the other other actor.
Yeah, I don't know. They do not appear to be the same actress. I'm looking on IMDb right now. They are not the same lady.
That tripped me out, man.
Yeah, no, that was wild. Like, and then you get to meet the well, first things first, the dialogue is very altered, which I think is a good piece of world building, because that is exactly what it would be. Slang would be different, terminology would be different. Everything about the way that we speak changes so frequently that they're talking casually and colloquially with each other, but that we as the audience are meant to just sort of infer, which is easy enough through the conversation, what they mean as they're speaking. And it's really jarring, because we just went from, Victorian 1899 vernacular to a indecipherable pseudo-futuristic vernacular. So I think that also lends to some of this whole like put you on your ear business. It feels a bit heavy-handed at times. Oh yeah, but I'm not against it.
I mean, yeah, it's basically 15 minutes to tell this story, and you get to live this world that these characters are talking about. Like they're talking about simulations. And they're like these groups of characters were scared by tomatoes.
Mm-hmm. They've never seen.
What is that?
It's the space garden trope. It's the space garden trope.
Yeah,
and it's been done in so many films. It's like, what is that? It's a garden. You've never heard of a garden. It's just to remind us the path we're on as a people.
Oh yeah, especially when they say, "I'm from the south coast of Canada."
Yeah, that's the southern coast.
Like that, like you could be more vindictive about what you think the history of the United States is going to be.
Oh yeah.
for Canada to have a whole south coast,
to be dropped right into that dystopian future, is just so jarring. And then, but what they do is they subtly let us know very quickly that this older, more war-ragged veteran is Amalia True, because they have the same little like personality tics. So they have the same personality tics, and they.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed Amalia didn't age, like aged very slowly,
Mm.
you know? It couldn't be more different than that.
It was amazing though, the way that they both these women play the same character, and it's believable. You immediately get what's going on
Oh,
without
yeah.
being hit in the face with it. Like you're hit with the face with it a little bit with the finger touching, the little nervous habit of playing with their hands. And so, but other than that, just the nuance to the way that they play those characters makes it truly, truly believable. And so we follow her. She's called Stripe, which is apparently her rank in the military. We learn that in the future, for whatever reason, names are sacred. So you don't tell anyone your name. You find out Stripe was married twice, and neither of her husbands ever knew her true name. So it's an interesting, again, a lot of world building going on for one episode, and it's fun.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I appreciate that stuff, man. Like, it's just like next level storytelling versus stuff that's just just completely hammered into you. You know, what a palate cleanse after watching Mortal Kombat, bro. That's all I gotta say.
It's dead, Arthur. So yeah.
I'm gonna beat that dead horse.
So basically, in this world, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with the Free Life Army. Oh, so what we've learned is that the future is a burning hellscape, like we all basically anticipate it becoming. So that happens just the way we were planning on it. And these aliens show up from another dimension. There are 20 of these Galanthi that come to Earth and presumably begin the work of repairing the planet after we've completely fucked it. So, of course, there's a whole group of people that think that the Galanthi are not here to help. There is actually some other ulterior motive. They're here to take us over, steal our resources, whatever their argument is. And they are in the process of eliminating them, and they're winning. So by this point, the Free Life Army has eliminated 19 of the original 20 Galanthi that have come to Earth, and they are converging with Stripe's forces with the Planetary Defense Coalition on the location of the one remaining Galanthi. And holy fuck, does that get dark.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Like Clive Barker dark.
Oh yeah.
You find out that this alien has empathy, and the Free Life Army knows it. So what they do is they murder its friends and dangle them above where they have it caged and held. It's like, Jesus Christ. That shit is dark.
Oh yeah, man.
Oh my God.
Oh, such a good show. Then going into chapter, I mean, I feel like you could spend a whole hour on just like that 15 minutes of the future.
Oh, this is a giant-sized episode by this point.
But yeah, it's beautiful how they go into who actually Molly was.
Yeah,
and it's like this, the show winds up getting even more and more robust after because you definitely want to do a rewatch.
Yeah, to watch her.
After you see the 6th episode. It's so funny how this really feels like a final, like the season finale.
I'm glad too, because I was afraid it wasn't going to feel that way.
I can't wait to see what the rest of the first season is going to be like.
Oh my God. Yeah. Look, anybody who's listening, they've seen the final episode, and they know that there just isn't even enough time in the world to talk about how crazy and awesome and amazing that episode is. And God, you're right though. It does feel like a season finale. And when I heard that they were doing the mid-season finale thing, I'm not a huge fan of that sort of thing. But here it works.
Like, I mean, Whedon, that's how he's been used to writing stuff for years. Like, that's true. He came from TV, so I think that's a really good way of doing things because it's also kind of like a comic book thing. There's a 6-episode arc in the comic book, then there's the other 6-episode arc, not episode, but 6-issue arc.
Right.
So you have that 12 issues of comics. And he writes comics too. So like I feel like that's definitely a great way to have like your mini climax and then building up to the ultra climax. Because like imagine what the other climax is going to be at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Leaves you being super excited. But going back to Molly right quick, just Molly's sad little life and the choices that she made and basically the fate of so many women of that time. You
Yeah.
know, so being able to show that and then see like the second lease on life that this character gets as basically has Molly has her death and then she's reborn as Zephyr, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah. And she gives that
and
name at
then
the
you
end of the
see
episode.
you like based off of what you just said when you're talking about how sacred names are, that makes it even so special that she tells Penance her name.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so beautiful. Then you know when they were trying to do their well thought out quote unquote plan to save Malady, you know when they get back to see Amalia and them, that Amalia's crew looks all messed up. So like I knew they're eventually going to show what they had to go through, so they show what they had to go through during that section. And we're gifted with all of these visions once Amalia has the fight that leads her underground to see the the earlier version of the
Yeah.
alien.
Yeah.
So there was that one line that in her fever dream, and it seems like it was there was several voices going, because at one point
Yes. I know what you're gonna say.
at one point they were showing the polyglot girl all super dressed up and
Mm-hmm.
speaking English, but then there was the other line that's saying, "You don't think you're the only one sent back now?"
Yes. Yep. Exactly. And I think it was that Free Life general, the one who was the one dude left behind to guard the facility when the Planetary Defense Coalition gets there. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that because he was shot, he may have died at the exact moment the Galanthi left as well and hitched a ride. And I'm guessing, but I'm thinking he might be in what's her name's body. I think the Lavinia Bidlow. I think it's possible he's in Lavinia Bidlow's body, because she's been playing all sides of this so expertly that I think she knows more than she thinks she knows, or more than we think she knows. But that's just a guess.
Yeah,
And it's
there's
probably way
also
off.
well, yeah, I mean that makes sense because they've been playing her as kind of this side character for a long time, but then she
Mhm.
does have that moment with her brother at that kind of like posh luncheon area where
Mhm.
she's kind of freaking out on all the people there, you know.
Yep. Yep. And then she also they make a point. She has an error when she speaks to Amalia, where she says, yes, and they're coming after all of us, all of you. And when she's talking
Hmm.
about the touched, which I thought was like, oh, she just let slip that she's touched.
Yeah, so that
Um,
might not be so much of a red herring.
but maybe, I mean, who knows? But she's definitely playing every single side of it. And so I think that she could be looking for a cure, that we're going to end this. We're going to take this being apart and we're going to use it to cure what it's done. And also she wants that, she wants the Galanthi destroyed, and it's up to Dr. Haig to tell her, like, we can't destroy it. I don't even know that we could. She goes, well, it's cracked. And he goes, no, no, no. Or she said, well, you cracked it. And he goes, no, no, it cracked. We didn't crack it. We can't even hurt this thing. Well, all we can do is get it out of town. So she seems pretty amped up to destroy it.
Mm-hmm.
So I caught that line too, and it sounded like it was in her voice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So we're gonna
it
find
makes
out.
sense too because that character is put in this woman who who's lame,
Yep.
so you imagine like the frustrations, but he's been given a place of power as this kind of debutante lady.
Also,
you know
Hugo mentions earlier in like one of the earlier episodes that she conducts herself more like a man.
mm-hmm.
It's unusual to see a woman wield that degree of authority.
Mm-hmm.
So they do make allusions to her not being what she seems. And then I figured that was just the payoff when we see that she's secretly working with Dr. Haig. But it could be even more payoff waiting.
You know what, that fever dream might have just been that thing communicating with her
Yeah.
using imagery. So I thought I kind of felt like it was about to show the future because they used the polyglot girl, but she was all dressed to the nines, talking to her like in English. The show is just endlessly interesting.
I mean, that's what it is. That's what
I never really do this, but like I have to do a quick rewatch of this whole series. Usually I gotta wait a while.
I'm gonna join you.
Yeah. I gotta do it. Well, that's my time.
Oh yeah, no kidding. We did. Trust me, this is gonna be a giant sized episode.
Is this our mid-season finale?
Nah, we'll be back. We'll be back next week. With more stuff that we want to watch. And but before we come back next week, Arthur, if people are looking to find you, where do they find you?
You can find me at arthurromeo.live. That's my website where you can see my voiceover stuff, my illustration stuff, and all the things that I'm working on. You can also catch me on Instagram. I have 2 Instagram accounts. I have my Dreamboat82 account, and then I also have my Draw Really Awesome Wow account, which is basically tied to my YouTube channel, where I teach, have tutorials on all sorts of like little fun things that I like to draw with little character voices commenting on things while I draw. It's a fun time.
Nice. And for me, if you want to find me, you can find me on Facebook at Thomas Olton, or you can find me on Instagram at Thomas.Olton. And if you like the episode, go onto your podcast app and rate and review us. That really does help us out. And but only say nice things, because we have feelings too.
Nice things!
Only nice things. And if you're going to say nice things, Arthur, you're going to say nice things about the program.
Tales to admonish.
I don't think you knew I was setting you up on that one. I just kind of threw it at you. I tried to set up earlier, but it didn't work.
See you guys.